I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the
Oh, yeah! Come on, folks, let them know it.
America's finest, the United States Army Barbershop Quartet, performing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. We appreciate these gentlemen doing this for us. We had to get permission from them. We had to get permission from the Barbershop Quartet. And we had to get permission from YouTube to continue broadcasting these fine men doing this for us. God bless our military. God bless our military, whether they be here in the U.S. or abroad. God bless our allied military as well. Those countries who are allies of the United States, who help support the United States and help support their own countries and defend their countries against the wiles of communism. That's exactly what it is. God bless you all, guys. We appreciate you all of you men and women around the world. Thank you for your service, and may you all return home to your families after your tours of duty end. Thank you for your service. Folks, as we always do, we have a lot to talk about tonight. A ton of things to talk about. The first thing I want to talk about, though, is the fires in Los Angeles. Okay? California wildfires. More evacuation orders were lifted in the Eaton fire. Winds have been backing down now. We told you yesterday that the winds had picked up because of the Santa Ana conditions. The Santa Ana conditions have backed down. Now they will pick up again next week. But meantime, the firefighters have had a chance to get more of these fires contained. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. Yes, there are still hot spots burning. And they have fire department personnel. They have over 7,000 fire department personnel on the fire lines. They have fire department personnel going back through the wildfire areas, putting out hot spots. As I said last night, there are now 25 deaths. We're going to talk about that and more tonight. Firefighters are making gains as the wind conditions have eased. Authorities said that there is little to no fire growth overnight. Little to no fire growth overnight except for the Palisades fire. Officials have warned that threats still exist, and the fire crews continue to strengthen the fire perimeters and they coordinate infrastructure repairs. They're coordinating infrastructure repairs, meaning water, fire hydrant rejuvenation, fire hydrants that were stolen off of fire hydrant mounts being replaced. Okay? Now, I want to tell you something, and it's very important. Mayor Bass ought to get her butt kicked. Mayor Bass ought to get her butt kicked. Mayor Bass and the present LA fire chief, they should both be fired. And the DEI department within the fire department should also go away. They should also go away. Why? Because, folks, what has happened is these crazy people have been in collusion. Mayor Bass and the fire chief have been in collusion. They took the fire department down by $23 million. But they spent millions of dollars putting up the DEI department. The assistant fire chief is head of the DEI, making $399,000 a year. Her two assistants are making $299,000 a year. Where's that money coming from? Mayor Bass cut the fire department budget by $23 million, meaning fire trucks were sold. Firefighters were let go. This should never have happened. Governor Idiot Newsom should be brought up on charges and imprisoned for what he's done. I only thought that he had drained two reservoirs. As it turns out, he has drained 4 reservoirs. 4 reservoirs were leveled out, completely drained out. The water going out to the Pacific Ocean. If this had not happened, there would have been plenty of water up in the Pacific Palisades fire hydrants. Governor Newsom should be hung for what he's done. They should be bringing him up on charges, recalling him, bringing him up on charges, and he should be going to prison. As I told you last night, Newsom tried to put up a Southern California, Los Angeles fire helpline, donation service. That donation service is going to act blue. The Democrat Party fundraising link. Do not anyone donate to any monies to Governor Newsom's fire renovation. Don't do it. That money's going to the Democrat Party in order to try to get Newsom elected as president in 2028. Don't do it. Newsom is a shyster. Newsom is a shyster, along with Mayor Bass and the leadership of the fire department. They should all be fired. They should all be fired. Mayor Bass should also go to jail. Unreal. Michael Kearney, before I started ranting and raving here, you said what a great song that national anthem is. A great day of salvation. You're absolutely right. I want to give that to you. You're absolutely right. Now let's get on with what I want to talk about with the fires. Okay? Officials have warned that threats still exist in the fire areas. Crews are strengthening the fire perimeters, and they're coordinating infrastructure repairs so the fire departments will have water at the fire hydrants. Thousands of residents across Los Angeles County face a long road to recovery after the fires have devastated communities in California's most populous county. Many families begin the long road to recovery, while others are still waiting to see if they will be able to return to their homes or they will join the long lines of survivors trying to find answers for the rest of their futures. That's hard. Windy weather conditions have eased up overnight last night, allowing firefighters in the Los Angeles area to make gains in the wildfires. Forecasters have said that the Santa Ana winds could return early next week. At least 25 people have been killed, and more than 12,000 structures have been destroyed or damaged throughout the region. Let me give you a highlight of the status of the LA fires. The Palisades Fire, the Pacific Palisades Fire, it's burned 23,713 acres. It's 21% contained. The Eaton Fire, 14,117 acres burned. 45% contained. Nearly 50% contained. The Hearst Fire in Sylmar burned 799 acres and it's 98% contained. The Auto Fire, it's along the mile of cars in LA. 61 acres are burned, 85% contained. The Little Mountain Fire, 34 acres are burned, 0% containment so far. The massive and destructive Eaton Fire and the Palisades Fire have yet to reach full containment. Human remains up to 3 were discovered in the rubble of a business in Altadena yesterday. Sources say a cadaver detection dog, alerted authorities to a specific area that led them to begin the search. The medical examiner's office has confirmed 16 deaths now tied to the Eaton Fire. Forecasters have said the Santa Ana winds could return early next week. Now we have some good news. We're expecting a much needed break from the weather that have caused these fires. And it may be that by this weekend we will have a lot of the containment around these fires. That's what they're hoping. The Weather Service has posted on social media yesterday that they have some good news for the firefighters. Bad news. Next week is still a concern. Now, while confident that we will not see a repeat of last week, dangerous fire conditions are still expected. Since the beginning of the outbreak on January 7th, authorities have arrested about a half dozen people accused of setting new small fires that were quickly knocked down. There are approximately 50 new fires a day that are being set. One suspect yesterday admitted starting a fire in a tree because he liked the smell of burning leaves. Los Angeles Police Chief Jim McDonald said today she enjoyed causing chaos and destruction. In total, there have been nearly 100 arrests that have included charges of burglary, looting, vandalism, and curfew violations in the Palisades and the Eaton Fire zones. There's still a curfew at night from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. every night until these fires are contained and people can be let back into the areas to go through the wreckage of their homes. Residents are permitted to return to their homes in select neighborhoods in the Palisades Fire area. Those areas include north of Topanga Canyon Boulevard and south to Mulholland Drive. Again, north of Topanga Canyon Boulevard and south of Mulholland Drive. north of Old Topanga Canyon Boulevard and south of Summit to Summit Motorway, south of Mulholland Highway and south of Stokes Canyon Road, and north of Red Rock Road and south of Calabasas Peak Motorway. If you are residents of that area, those areas I should say, you will need to show proof of residency to enter those areas. National Guard troops are on the streets linking those areas to popular areas of Los Angeles. Again, in order to get in those areas, you're going to have to show proof of residency. Residence access will be through the intersections of Mulholland Highway, Old Topanga Canyon Road, Civic Center Way, Malibu Canyon Road, Mulholland Drive, Topanga Canyon Road, according to the Sheriff's Office. Now, while some homes were spared in the raging fires, some families have returned to find their homes in poor condition, and the damage goes much deeper. Residents are asked to use extreme caution when you return home. Officials have said that hazmat teams will be sent to assess damage if you ask for it. Hazmat teams will be sent to your location if you ask for it. Now, let's talk about the schools. Santa Monica, Malibu Unified School Districts. All Malibu campuses in the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District will remain closed through the end of this week, with plans to reopen next Tuesday after the Martin Luther King holiday is over. Now, this too is subject to change. Make sure that you contact your school districts to see if there's a change to this. UCLA classes. UCLA, which is holding classes remotely this week due to the red flag conditions and the wildfires, will resume in-person classroom instruction on Tuesday, again following the Martin Luther King holiday on Monday. According to the university, in-person work will resume this weekend for people who've been working remotely, though we continue to ask supervision to be flexible during this challenging period. The National Guard, we mentioned that they will be checking identifications getting into the fire areas. The LA County Sheriff's Office Temple Station is reporting that the National Guard has been deployed to Duarte to assist the station in restricting unauthorized access to the San Gabriel riverbed. That area of the San Gabriel riverbed is deemed a high-risk fire area. Now, I want to also talk about air quality. We've touched on air quality throughout this past week. Experts have said that air quality index has not been a proper measurement of the city's poor air quality. Experts have said that the air quality index has not been a proper measurement of the city's poor air quality. David H. Gonzalez is an expert with the Pollution Control District. He's talking about toxic fumes in the Los Angeles skies after the raging wildfires erupted in Los Angeles County over a week ago. Toxic fumes. The best thing that you can do is not go outside. The best thing that you can do is to not go outside. If you have to be outside, go to your office or where you work and stay there, and then go directly home. Do not attempt to exercise, run, or do anything else outside. Stay in your offices and stay in your homes. Now, the City of Santa Monica has announced its Emergency Operations Center has shifted to a monitoring position. The City of Santa Monica's Emergency Operations Center has shifted its Emergency Operations Center to a monitoring position. In other words, right now, they're monitoring the ongoings of the operation. They're monitoring the ongoing operation. They're no longer being proactive. The Emergency Operations Center has moved into a monitoring position as the Palisades Fire Emergency Response shifts toward regional recovery. The Palisades Fire Emergency Response has shifted into regional recovery. The city will continue to support the evacuation warning areas north of San Vicente Boulevard until it is lifted. Now, we've talked about FEMA in North Carolina. Presently, FEMA is on site in Los Angeles as well. We told you that they were opening up locations at 1 p.m. Monday afternoon. And then from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. But as of this morning, the deadline to apply for FEMA assistance is March 10th. The deadline to apply for FEMA assistance is March 10th. Now, Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna has reported 2 additional deaths overnight, one in the Eaton fire area and one in the Palisades fire area as well. Additionally, 31 active missing persons have been reported, 24 in the Eaton fire and 7 in the Pacific Palisades area. 31 active missing persons reports, 24 in the Eaton fire area and 7 in the Pacific Palisades fire areas. 31 active missing persons reports. Additionally, residents in the fire evacuation zones will only be allowed to return home for at least a week. It might be longer than that. Residents in the fire evacuation zones will not be allowed to return home for at least a week, and it might be longer than that. Sheriff Luna today said any additional press conferences regarding the wildfire updates will be conducted on an as-needed basis. In other words, the daily briefings are not going to continue. The daily briefings will not continue. Residents are urged to visit fire.ca.gov, fire.ca.gov for the most current information. Again, the fire updates as they've been having them in press conferences every morning and afternoon are going to stop. There will only be press conferences on an as-needed basis. Now, you've heard of the Environmental Protection Agency. The EPA at the state level in California and the federal level in Los Angeles has started cleanup efforts. The Environmental Protection Agency is assessing damaged property in the Pacific Palisades and the Eaton fire areas. And they're working the Public Works departments also to clean up damaged and destroyed properties. The EPA is developing plans to clean up pesticides, batteries, fuel, and other household hazardous materials in the areas that burned. So now the EPA is also involved. Now, does anybody have any questions about what's going on in Los Angeles with the fires? I want to answer any questions that you might have in regards to the fires in Los Angeles. I think this is very important. Linda Covington says the air quality in California, especially San Francisco, has been an ongoing problem since they started government tests. You're absolutely right, Linda. Absolutely right. It's been a huge problem in San Francisco for years. Literally years. Harbor Girl says I'm a treasure. Thank you so much. I spend every day for hours on end gathering information. I listen in on press conferences. The LA Emergency Operations Center is constantly sending me messages Watch the press conference. Pay attention to the press conference. Can you attend the press conference? I don't know how many messages I've got from them. But yes, I'm doing that for you, and I'm also doing that for them. And I have a feeling I'm also going to get paid by them because they've asked me to do it. But I'm doing it more for everybody else as well. People throughout this United States and around the world have friends and family in the Los Angeles area. That's why I'm doing it. I want to make sure you all have the latest information. That's what's important to me. Daniel Weir is asking, do you know anything about the weird fog? If you see weird fog, go home. If you see a weird fog, go home. I've been hearing that it may be a toxic cloud. One, it could be toxic cloud from the fires. But I've also been told that they have been throwing chemicals into the air from planes. I've been told that they've been putting out chemicals from planes. So if you see a fog, go home. Close your windows down. Run air filters in your home. My wife and I have 2 air filters downstairs in our living room. We have good-sized air filters both here in our office studio here and in our bedroom. Run air filters. Run air filters. Air filters are not expensive, but they're not cheap either. Look at your air filters and then purchase them. These air filters could save your life, not just now, but in the future. As we know, bad air contamination can cause all kinds of health problems, including cancer. So if you see this fog that they're talking about, go home. Stay indoors, close your windows, and run air filters. Okay? I don't trust the government. I don't trust the government one whit. Sagepup says the movie The Fog is very scary. I agree it is. But what we're seeing now may be purposeful contamination. Purposeful contamination. I believe these fires were set. I believe these fires were set for government reasons. The 15-minute city does not sit well with me at all. They tried that in Maui, and as a result, the people have rebelled. And that's why Lahaina has not been rebuilt like they said they wanted to do. They're having a hard time having the construction companies getting permits. They're also having a hard time with the developers. The developers aren't getting their way like they said they were going to. And that's a good thing. Now, what's going to happen in Los Angeles? In Los Angeles, they're doing the same thing they did in Maui. I want you to know that. Straight up. You need to know that. If you hear of your house or other property trying to be bought or sold, put a stop to it. Put a stop to it. That's the only way we're going to get any justice. We cannot let these politicians get away with what they've done. Okay? Now my buddy Don Patoka here, who's one of my mods here, he just put up a post that's very important. Air filtration should be a part of your personal preparation. Air filtration should be part of your personal preparation. Absolutely true. You should really seriously think about it. Not just the N95 and N100 masks. Those are a good start. But again, the masks are only good for so long. Once you take it off, it's no good anymore. And you have to have another one, and another one, and another one. Proper air filtrations in your home and offices is very important. Air filtration could save your life. Just saying. Air filtration could save your life. All right. Any more questions? Arnold Smith, yes, please get something to eat, come back. We'd appreciate that. Arnold Smith is one of our best EMA family members, and I love him. I love all of you. I really do. Now, please also, while we're talking about all of this, please make sure you're still subscribed to our program. Make sure you're still subscribed to our program. YouTube has been unsubscribing people again. Check your subscriptions and make sure you're still subscribed. If you're not subscribed, resubscribe. Those of you that are not subscribed, please subscribe to our channel. And when you do that, right next to the subscription button, there's a little bell icon, a small bell icon. Click on that bell icon. A drop-down menu of 3 items will come up. Click on the word ALL. That should get you notified when we come on the air. That's very important. Now, also be advised, YouTube does not always notify people when we come on the air. That's why I keep telling all of you, we come on the air between 6 and 7 p.m. every night Eastern Time. Sometimes it's later than that. And that's because I'm gathering information, or I've been in a press conference, or I've been on the phone with people getting information for you. In that case, I'll come on the air as soon as I can. I promise you. 25% of the people that watch this program are not subscribed. Imagine that. If we had those 25%, our channel would be taken off. Our channel would be taken off. But I also believe that YouTube is suppressing this channel. They suppressed my last channel when I had 25,000 people subscribing. They're suppressing this channel even more because they know that I tell the truth. I don't just walk a line and fall on one side or the other. I tell the truth. I tell the truth no matter how hard that truth might be. Everyone deserves to know what's going on. And that's why I'm talking about it. My buddy Demon Catman, who's also out here, says that there's a lot of SO2, sulfur dioxide, covering the world currently. You're absolutely right, Dean. There is a lot of SO2. That is because we have a lot of volcanoes erupting. And we have several other volcanoes that are about to erupt, that are putting up water vapor that has SO2 in it. That's because the magma is pressing up into the volcanic chamber of these volcanoes. It's popping into that volcanic rock that's holding that magma inside the volcano. When that happens, that lava rock, that great big huge lava rock that's been holding that magma inside the volcano since it last erupted, it's getting holes in it. The holes are occurring because that magma from underneath is pounding on that great big huge piece of lava rock plug. When that happens, little tiny cracks evolve into that rock. Little tiny cracks evolve into that lava plug. When that happens, you need to know this. I've talked about this before as well. 6 to 7% of magma is water. 6 to 7% of magma is water. The magma is in the volcano at upwards of 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. That's far above the boiling level of water. So when that magma hits that big huge lava rock, it creates fissures in that rock. water vapor from the magma that is vaporizing from the heat of the magma, hitting that rock, and vaporizing, going through those tiny fissures in the rock. And this is a science lesson, guys. What happens when water vapor hits a solid surface? It expands, doesn't it? The hot water vapor expands. In expanding, it's opening those fissures even wider. It's opening those fissures even wider, allowing more lava plumes coming from the volcanoes containing SO2 and CO2. At some point, those little tiny fissures in that lava rock plug are going to pop. And when that happens, the volcano is going to erupt. Okay? Don Patoka is in the chat again saying, water vapor expands 7 times. The hot water vapor expands 7 times. Again, this is a science lesson, guys. It's a science lesson. It expands. Okay? Water vapor like that that's very hot is powerful. It's powerful. You've seen pots on your stove that have lids on them pop like this. That's because the steam of the boiling water is powerful. It's popping that lid on your stove, in the pot on your stove, because it's powerful. The same thing is happening inside that volcano. And that's when we have a volcanic eruption. Steam pressure, Charlene says. Absolutely. Steam pressure. Linda Covington says, chemicals in the new fog thanks to our government. You're absolutely right. Thanks to the Biden administration. Anything that's going on now is responsible. The Biden administration is responsible for it. If Biden were not so mentally challenged right now, he could be sent to prison for what he's done and what he continues to do. Issuing these presidential orders, like he's been doing, is damaging this country to such an extent it's not even fathomable right now. President Trump is going to find out when he takes over on Monday that he's going to be faced with almost insurmountable obstacles because what the Biden administration has done. And I honestly believe that it's not just Biden. It's his entire administration, including Obama. Including Barack Obama. I believe Barack Obama and that idiot George Soros are responsible for it. How did George Soros get awarded the Medal of Freedom when he's wanted in 17 different countries for what he's done? He should be jailed in our own country. He never got that Medal of Freedom. Neither should Hillary Clinton. She's also behind it. She and Bill Clinton are just as guilty as Barack Obama. Plain and simple. S. North says because he's free. Pretty much. Pretty much. Canito Worry says he'll never pay. I don't think Biden will ever pay. I don't think Biden's health will last more than 6 months to a year. And he won't be with us. Those criminally liable will be found out. You're right, Alan. Elton Newton says that the criminally liable will be found out. But guess what the Democrats are doing in Congress right now? In the Senate. They're grilling the new Attorney General, Miss Bondi. Grilling her. One Democrat, one idiot Democrat that was a congressman who abandoned his congressional seat in California, and now he's a senator. He was elected senator in the November 5th election. He's back. He grilled Miss Bondi yesterday and told lies. He continued to tell lies about President Trump. And Bondi held him to his own story. Bondi just tore Pencil Neck Adam Schiff's throat and his heart out of his body. Bondi tore him up. Bondi held Adam Schiff responsible. But other Democrat senators were also doing the same thing. And Bondi was holding her own. Unreal. Just a second, I'm checking something. Yes, Harbor Girl, send me a copy of that report to our email address. Demon Catman just gave you our email address in the chat here. It's very important. I want to see that report. Thank you for that. Yes, Red Act is information. I don't need his information. Okay? But I want to see the report. Any other questions here? S. Nort said she had to close and come back because the broadcast got rough. That's because YouTube doesn't like us. YouTube does not like me telling the truth. But I'm going to tell the truth no matter what. They can't stop me. They can suppress my channel. But if they take me down one more time, I will own YouTube. I will own YouTube. Elon Musk and I will own YouTube. I refuse to let YouTube do what they've been doing the last couple of years. Not going to happen anymore. Period. Dennis is asking, any earthquakes near New Madrid? Yes. We're going to talk about those in just a minute. Now, I want to talk about what's going on here in North Carolina in the mountain areas. Yes, we've had very, very cold conditions. Below zero in some cases during the past 2 weeks. But people still living in tents. FEMA began their exodus from Western North Carolina December 3rd, this last year. They had 4 disaster recovery centers called DRCs. Those have now been closed. While 5,200 households have lost their FEMA hotel vouchers. As of January 1st, 5,200 households lost their FEMA hotel vouchers. Those hotel vouchers were only good for 60 days. The Federal Emergency Management Agencies closed 4 Western North Carolina DRCs. And they've torn down the employee housing village that they put up in Asheville. 5,200 storm-displaced households that had been living in hotels are out, with no other shelter options. The exodus from the FEMA staff from the region comes on the heels of the late November withdrawal of the National Guard and the pullout of the U.S. Army 18th Airborne Corps service members in late October. Yeah. They pulled them out. The Democrat Party pulled them out. Plain and simple. The Democrat Party pulled them out. Now, there are individuals and organizations that are trying to bring in mobile homes and RVs into the area to help displaced people have someplace warmer to stay. There are very good people that are trying to do that. trying to help people. But the DRC FEMA center that they had up with aircraft runway pieces on the ground and buildings put up by FEMA and their contractors have been torn down. These are aircraft landing pads that the military's put down to build the DRC on. Now the DRC's gone and these aircraft landing pads are still there. Now, there was a building put up by FEMA to house the FEMA responders. The government tried to tear it down. They were stopped. There are contractors in Asheville and the surrounding areas that have come in and tried to refurbish the FEMA responders' residences, which were small rooms that allowed the FEMA responders a place to live while they were in North Carolina. So they're trying to do that. And as I said before, FEMA has had, I was told, 3,200 RVs and trailers on a piece of property here in North Carolina that are doing nothing. Sitting on acres and acres of property, doing nothing. Incredible. The United States Army 18th Airborne Corps service members left in late October. Some local residents say they feel abandoned by the federal and state governments. Storm victim advocates say a massive crisis is brewing, with more than 5,000 people slated to lose FEMA hotel vouchers, as they have. Before Christmas, everybody was fretting. But a lot of people from here in Burke County, people from all over North Carolina, and even Tennessee, helped bring Christmas to families in the western North Carolina mountains and in Tennessee. They made sure the families had a Christmas. Then the families lost their homes. The landscape of the devastated region is dotted with tents that served only as a shelter for some families who were forced to brave overnight temperatures that recently dipped into the teens and lower. Some residents are unable to live in their damaged homes. Even more had their homes and property completely swept away by flooding and violent mudslides. It's horrific what's been going on in western North Carolina and Tennessee. It's horrific. Plain and simple. I don't know any other words to describe it. It's horrific. This is what some areas look like. Now, a guy named Steve Baker, who worked for Glenn Beck, who is a reporter for Glenn Beck still, for Blaze Media, he was telling governmental officials about the terrible conditions in North Carolina. The government officials both here in the North Carolina and in Washington, D.C. said, oh, it's not that bad. They were lying to Steve Baker, lying to him. So Steve Baker came up here and took these pictures. Folks, this river up there, it's a terrible river now. It's got pollutants in it. Pieces of tires, shredded tires, pieces and full automobiles and tractor trailers are in that river. Pieces of sheet metal are hanging 40 feet in the air from limbs of trees after the 40-foot deluge of water came through the area and flooded the area after the dam broke. Houses were demolished. You see a railroad track here. The railroad track had to be repaired. They had to assess miles and miles of railroad track because the floodwaters ravaged the railroad track, knocked over homes, knocked out roadways, sidewalks, and businesses and homes strewn all over the landscape. The pace of federal housing help has far outstripped the need. The pace for federal housing has far outstripped by the need. Only 27 FEMA mobile homes and trailers were delivered to Western North Carolina families whose homes had been destroyed by the devastating flood spurned by Hurricane Helene in late September, September 27th. Officials said that victims must apply for storm aid by January 7th. That date is now gone. January 7th is now gone. FEMA's not doing anything for anybody. A FEMA official told Blaze News' Steve Baker that 5,179 households are still using FEMA hotel vouchers. They no longer have long-term housing available. The agencies helped 4,950 households find suitable long-term housing as part of its transitional shelter and assistance program. As of November 25th, 5,179 households remain checked into hotels. That ended January 1st. And FEMA is no longer working with those families to assist them. One official said to me earlier today, the program typically takes place within 60 days after the disaster, in the immediate aftermath of the disaster. Unfortunately, this program cannot continue indefinitely, and typically partnering hotels and other places will reduce their availability to the program as business patterns resume. For example, Christmas and New Year's. Because some people come into the area and want to stay in hotels during the holidays. So the hotels have to kick out the people that are there. Because the hotels are no longer getting paid by FEMA. Now, as I said earlier, that FEMA housing village is packed up. The FEMA housing village is packed up. No longer there. That news is no comfort to storm victims who watched during Thanksgiving week as FEMA dismantled its employee housing village in Candler, North Carolina, and closed 4 disaster recovery centers in Western North Carolina. Closed the DRCs and left the people wondering where the next meal was coming from. Cotton Logistics, a federal contractor based in Katy, Texas, began tearing down the FEMA employee housing village in Candler before Thanksgiving. Cotton provides turnkey housing solutions for FEMA staff and contractors after a disaster. The company supplies housing units, laundry trailers, dining facilities, restrooms, showers, and other support services. They were going to tear it down. They were stopped. In a November 22nd news release, FEMA said it was closing disaster recovery centers in Sparta, North Carolina. Remember Sparta? Where that 5.2 earthquake hit here a little over 4 years ago? Dallas, North Carolina. Sylva, North Carolina. And Old Fort, North Carolina. Now, I was told earlier this morning that storm survivors can visit any FEMA Assistance Center or use the agency's website to register for help. FEMA has that option to deny or accept that person's request for help. Responder village that they held in Candler is no more. It was one of several first responder villages built with single unit housing for FEMA employees and federal contractors. The sites were built to allow as much hotel space as possible for storm survivors. The Candler site, like I said, offered lodging, showers, medical care, dining, and electrical service. Josh Wirt, who's the director of FEMA's Responder Support Branch, told us today that in mid-October, FEMA had more than 1,400 staff in the region. I reached out to them today, and Wirt had no comment. Wirt had no comment, other than to say they had 1,400 staff in the region. They're now gone. Now, during the Thanksgiving holidays, local residents who noticed the Candler site was abandoned found pallets of food left behind that were apparently slated to be thrown away. Volunteers loaded the food on trailers and distributed it to needy Western North Carolina families. And it appears that in some cases, FEMA staff are living out of mobile housing units on the same site. FEMA staff are living on in mobile housing units on the same site as the disaster recovery center where they used to work. A bunkhouse trailer is parked near the Asheville Disaster Recovery Center. Now, I asked them twice today, once at 11 o'clock and once at 1 o'clock, for comment. They refused to comment. Now, volunteers and charitable organizations are stepping up in an attempt to fill the huge void left behind by FEMA between the urgent housing demand and the small dent that FEMA made. The small dent that FEMA made when they put up mobile homes and trailers in the area. And yet there's all those trailers that are government owned on that piece of property that are still sitting there. Now, solutions are being put into place, including donated RVs and tiny houses that were built by the Amish that were hauled in right before Christmas by NASCAR to allow families to remain on their properties. Groups such as Operation Shelter that I've been in contact with today, that I hope will get back to me tomorrow morning. Emergency.rv.org. Emergency.rv.org is an organization that has the ability to reach out and contact people, and people reach out and contact them that may have people that have RVs that are willing to donate to emergencyrv.org, and emergencyrv.org takes those RVs, takes those trailers over to Western North Carolina and gives them to families that need it. That's what Emergency RV is doing. Okay? Before Thanksgiving, they delivered many RVs over there to families to get out of the bitter cold from their wind-battered tents. Woody Faircloth, who's the founder of Emergency RV, said that his charity has delivered 56 free RVs to Western North Carolina families. That's more than double the number of units placed in the field by FEMA. More than double the units placed by FEMA. 25 RVs or trailers were brought in by FEMA. What a crock of crap. when they have full fields, acres and acres of RVs and trailers that could be brought in there, that they didn't do it. There are still more than 700 families registered with the emergency RV in need of shelter. It's really sad. Faircloth said that he spent 5 days delivering RVs in Northern Carolina during the Thanksgiving weekend. It's going to get a whole lot worse before it gets better. Especially since November 7th, when all those hotel vouchers, actually November 1st, when all those hotel vouchers went out the window. Nobody, not a single person that we've had a chance to talk to had any flood insurance. Not one person had any flood insurance. So all those insurance claims are denied. It's horrific. Where are those good people going to go? Where are those good people going to go? What are they going to do? Now there's a man named Matt Van Swol. Van Swol. Fanswol. He's an Asheville resident. He has helped to coordinate and publicize the local disaster response. He said that he does not understand why FEMA downsized when the region is badly hurting. Why he asked why FEMA downsized when the region's hurting. But he's also gotten no response. He said, we are literally driving in an RV from Utah this past week for a family of 6. He drove in an RV from Utah for a family of 6. Now, I called FEMA earlier today, like I said. I want an answer to a question. Even just one question. Why did FEMA have to leave? Why did FEMA have to leave? The work did not even really begun. The work hadn't really even begun at all. Cassie Clark, who's a North Carolina storm victim advocate with more than 15,000 followers on X, castigated the government for its response to Helene. Castigated the government for its response to Hurricane Helene. What is happening in Western North Carolina is a disgrace. It falls on the heads of our federal government and our state government, Governor Cooper, and the local government there in Western North Carolina. It's a disgrace. And I personally am not going to even pretend otherwise. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I've been in contact with several people today, and I'll keep in contact with them tomorrow and throughout the week. Throughout the weekend, I should say. I'm going to do whatever it takes to gather as much information as possible to get food and clothing to those people in North Carolina and to try to find them housing. No, I can't do it myself. There's only so much I can do from here, but I'm going to do whatever I can to help them. Now, I've contacted my friends at the National Guard Bureau as well. I worked with the National Guard Bureau for many years doing disaster drills around this country. They're looking into the possibility of sending the National Guard themselves up here. They are not going to wait for Governor Cooper to ask Biden or anybody else for more aid. Harbor Girl says, I know President Trump will do his best to fix FEMA. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Back in October, when President Trump visited here in Asheville. He made a statement. He made a statement to the lieutenant governor, who's a Republican. He made a statement to the people of Asheville and all over North Carolina. He made a statement that said that he was going to come back. He is going to come back. That the people here in North Carolina are not going to have to wait much longer. Trump said that the failing response by the Biden-Harris administration was pathetic. The failing response by the Biden-Harris administration was pathetic. And that's the truth. Absolutely pathetic. We can't rely on the government for much of anything under the Democrat leadership, including our present governor, Governor Cooper. He's a piece of work. Renee Sevy says good, because if we rely on the government or Cooper, we won't get anything. You're right. Now, Casey Wardninsky, who is Assistant Secretary of the Army for Manpower and Reserve Affairs under President Donald Trump, said he's also going to help President Trump. He's also going to work with our National Guard Bureau to get people back up here in North Carolina. And I have, like I said, friends in the National Guard Bureau myself. And we're going to see what we can do to get these people help. We're going to. Now, just before the November 5th presidential election, a former Assistant U.S. Secretary of the Army said that the military should have been doing much more in terms of building shelters, stringing temporary power in remote areas, and rebuilding washed out roads and more. Why have they not done it? Why have they not done it? They could have. They could have. But under Biden, they didn't do it. The amount of debris strewn along the riverbanks of the French Broad River is eye-watering. Tanker trucks, shipping containers, and cars just floating in the water. Shipping containers, trailers, 18-wheeler trucks, cars floating in the river, in the French Broad River. The pollution there is pathetic. It's pathetic. Because if the government wanted to help things and clear things up, they could have also pulled those pieces of wreckage out of the river to stop some of the pollution. But again, the government didn't do anything. As Linda Covington said here in the chat, Biden was too busy sending money to Ukraine. Imagine, just imagine, if Biden had not been sending money to Ukraine and had put money into the disaster funds here in the United States, these people that are presently without housing might not be in the position they're in today. Unreal. Unreal. Debris swinging from the trees. 18-wheeler trucks upside down in the river. Now, in the past few days, since we've been talking about this here, I've been criticized, I've been accused of being overly dramatic. Overly dramatic about the damage and the debris conditions on the ground in West North Carolina. And the people that are just barely surviving in tents. I don't think I've been as critical as I could have been. Because people died. Babies have died because of the cold. And Ray Steffi says, North Carolina has not recovered all the bodies yet. No, they haven't. And in fact, what I believe they've done is stop counting the bodies. I believe the morgue in Mission Hospital in Asheville is probably still full because they can't bury the bodies until they identify them. That's what I believe has happened. The morgues and the other places where they place the bodies, they can't bury those bodies until they identify those people. It's unreal. But as Steve Baker from the Blaze told me, the debris is still lodged high in the trees from the 35 to 40 foot wall of water after the dam broke. Building materials that were on the side of the river at different places were swept down the mountains with the river. Sheet metal dangling from the trees 40 feet off the ground. That picture you see right now is unreal. And there's more than that. There's more than that. Yes, there are videos here from private people here in North Carolina that have published videos here on YouTube. Yeah, they've done it. And first, during the past, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks, I didn't necessarily believe it until I went and did my research. And now I'm going to say this. Those poor people are just waiting for President Trump to take power on Monday. And hopefully, things will start changing immediately. Hopefully, things will start changing immediately. Do you all have any questions for me? I know I spent some quality time here talking about this, but somebody needed to do it. Somebody needed to talk about it because it's not being done. Yes, there are some people out there still talking about it. Private people. But while they are talking about it, who is listening? Who is listening? It needs to be publicized. It needs to be publicized and talked about. Ruthie B says, if the governor can't make it happen for reasons unbeknownst to us, call your state senators. And she is absolutely right. Call the state senators. I've got to call into one of our state senators here, and hopefully by tomorrow, because they were in session today, talking with, what's his name, the nominee for the Secretary of Defense, talking with him. And one other team of senators still speaking with Pam Bondi. Yeah. Yes, as Charlene says, prayer for the babies. Innocent souls who lost their lives. And those babies and children that are still suffering out there. Because of Governor Cooper, and Joe Biden. And even Harris. She was here. She did nothing. Not a darn thing. She saw supplies being loaded on a C-130 bound for Hickory, North Carolina. But just as soon as the photo op was finished, the supplies were taken off the C-130. Where they were taken, who knows? But Vice President Harris got the photo op. Unreal. Kathy Berriman says the weather is being messed with. You're right. It is. It's being messed with. It's not getting any better either. One voter is here in the chat saying, I don't think it is people, they don't care. I think people have to stop relying on federal powers and help state to state. You're absolutely right. And all of us, each and every one of us, leaning on the state politicians. Leaning on the state politicians and even the politicians in Asheville. Yes, the politicians in Asheville need to have heavy leaning on. They need to be leaned on heavily. Because the city representatives in Asheville are evil as well. They need heavy leaning on to get them out of their comfort zone and doing something whether they want to do it or not. Okay? It's unreal what I've heard. When I last spoke to someone in Asheville back, I believe it was in November, the beginning of November, they asked me where I lived. I said, Morganton. Why are you even worrying about it? You live in Morganton. Nowhere near Asheville or anywhere else. Why are you worried about it? I said, because I am a citizen of North Carolina, and I care. And so should you. And they hung up on me. That's what I got out of Asheville. Unreal. Uncotton picking real. One voter says recall petitions hitting the press really does work. I agree. I agree. But Biden is part of the problem. And he's going away. When this issue first hit September 27th, Biden was still in power. Biden didn't do anything until Biden was forced. And even then, he flew around the disaster area in Air Force One. And he did nothing. He did nothing. He did not force FEMA to do their job. FEMA's done as little or nothing as they possibly could. It's unreal. As Don Patoka said here in the chat, if we ignore it, it does not exist. That's why I cannot let this go by. I cannot allow this to just go by. And I'm not going to. Anyway, I want to talk about earthquakes. I want to talk about New Madrid. So let's do that. Let's talk about New Madrid now. I have some seismograms I want to show you. Let's see, where did my seismograms go here? Right here. Okay. This seismogram is Catfish Pond, Arkansas. Catfish Pond, Arkansas. What you see here is very little information. As of early this morning, you don't see much happening here. You really don't. Because things have calmed down here in the New Madrid Fault area. Things have calmed down from what it used to be. This morning after 7 a.m., 7:02 this morning, there was a 2.4 earthquake. A 2.4 magnitude earthquake. We've had larger earthquakes here at Catfish Pond before. We've had larger earthquakes than that before. Other than that, Catfish Pond, Arkansas has just had tremors. That one 2.4 earthquake was the only thing that they had here today. This is what it looked like this afternoon. Nothing but tremors. Usually we would have minor earthquakes, and we've even had some small earthquakes here at Catfish Pond. It's right on the New Madrid Fault in northern Oregon. Right along the New Madrid Fault in northern Oregon. Let's continue this discussion. Let's go to Harrisburg, Arkansas. Harrisburg, Arkansas. Look what happened here. Look what happened here. Let me open this up. This morning it didn't show anything going on. Nothing. This is this afternoon. Okay? Didn't show anything but tiny tremors and microquakes this morning. This afternoon at 1:41 p.m. we had a 1.4 tremor. Fascinating. We had several other tremors also. But at 4 p.m. we had a 2.7 minor earthquake. 2.7 minor earthquake. Then, at nearly 4:06 p.m. this afternoon, we had another 2.7 earthquake. And we had a bunch of tremors here, didn't we? Absolutely. Again, this is near the New Madrid Fault in Arkansas. Harrisburg, Arkansas. Let's go over to Mark Tree, Arkansas. Mark Tree, Arkansas, before now, has been a hotbed for earthquakes. Mark Tree, Arkansas has always been a hotbed of earthquakes. Guess what? Guess what? It's not anymore. Now, the top of this seismogram here starts at midnight last night. The red line here at the top is 12:15 over on the left-hand side. We go over 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes. We have tremors building up. 1.1, 1.2 tremors. A minute later, we have 1.3, 1.4 tremors. A minute later, we have 1.4, 1.5 tremors. And within 30 seconds after that, we have 2.0 earthquakes happening. Those 2.0 go from 2.0 to 2.8, 2.9 minor earthquakes. Look at this earthquake sequence here. It starts off at 12:19 a.m. this morning. 12:19 a.m. this morning. It ends just after 12:22 a.m. this morning. Isn't that interesting? All this time, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. 5 minutes of earthquake sequence here. And that actually was one of the largest earthquake sequences today. Usually here in Mark Tree, Arkansas, we have 3.0 to 4.0 earthquakes all day long. Off and on all day long. Right here, the largest earthquakes we see here today is that one after 12:15 this morning. Another one that occurred after 2:45 this morning. Another one after 3:15 this morning, which is even less. That earthquake didn't even get above 2.0. Seismic energy didn't get above 2.0. Then another earthquake this morning. That earthquake hit after 6:30 a.m. this morning. Again, the largest earthquake sequence there was like a 2.8 minor earthquake. But again, that sequence of events lasted for 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Then another sequence of events happened after 6:55 a.m. this morning on the green line on the right. And then that green line on the right continued over on the left-hand side on the black line at 7 a.m. But again, that seismic sequence lasted 4 minutes. Interesting enough. How about that seismic sequence that started off at 10:56 a.m. this morning? And that ended after 11:02. 6 minutes worth of seismic energy. Yes, it was minor earthquakes. Minor earthquakes for 6 minutes. And then tremors again after 11:15 this morning. But again, Marktree, Arkansas has had 3.0 to 4.0 earthquakes every day, many times during the day. I'm going to say maybe 20 times every day for months now. Months. Things have begun to calm down some. But folks, there's this. I don't think it's going to remain calm. I believe this is probably the calm before the storm. I believe this is the calm before the storm. Look at Marktree, Arkansas this afternoon. On that blue line. Over on the left-hand side, the blue line is 1:30 this afternoon. We go over 4 minutes later. The tremors are building up here. But again, here, in this sequence here, the largest earthquakes that we had were probably 2.8, 2.9 earthquakes. And that seismic sequence lasted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes long. A 5-minute long seismic sequence, a 5-minute long earthquake. From 2.0 to 2.9 for 5 minutes. Usually, minor earthquakes are not felt by anyone. The only time people feel the ground moving is when it's 3.0 and above. 3.0 earthquakes and above. This is Marktree, Arkansas. I'm going to tell you right now. This is typically of what we've seen all throughout the New Madrid seismic zone. This is what we've seen all throughout the New Madrid seismic zone today. The events keep happening, but the events have gotten smaller. Let's go up north to Indiana. Evansville, Indiana. This is the Southern Indiana University at Evansville, Indiana. Now, I'm going to ask you this. What do you see missing here? This seismogram started off at midnight last night. Midnight this morning. Over 2/3 of the seismogram is missing. Why? Because one of the seismologists stopped it. One of the seismologists stopped the seismograph from working. And it didn't work again this morning until just before 7 a.m. It started again at 6:47 a.m. this morning. Unreal. This is the northern end of the New Madrid Fault. Evansville, Indiana. Here we're seeing tremors. Here we're seeing tremors. We're used to seeing tremors and minor earthquakes. Off and on minor earthquakes. About 18 minor earthquakes a day. Sporadic all morning and all afternoon long. This is all we got. This is literally all we got from Evansville, Indiana. This is Evansville, Indiana this afternoon, right before I pulled the seismogram. Nothing but tremors. Yes, the new Madrid fault is moving. The new Madrid fault is moving. It always is moving. But the larger events have stopped happening. For one reason or another, and I don't know the reason. The larger events have stopped happening. Now, let's go over and take a look at Barker Cemetery, Missouri. Missouri is the center of the new Madrid fault. Barker Cemetery typically has all kinds of activity literally all day long. But lately, they're not showing much activity. Why? Because the seismologists are turning off the machine. Look between 12 midnight this morning and 10 a.m. today. Nothing. Nothing. Hide in her hair, nothing. The seismologist turned off the seismograph. Then all of a sudden at 10 a.m., we start seeing activity. Now, why is the activity so turned down? Why is the activity here so turned down? Let me tell you something. We've been seeing tremors. We have been seeing 2.0, 2.5 earthquakes here at Barker Cemetery, Missouri. We've even seen 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes here a month ago. The seismologist turned down the seismograph. The seismologist turned down the seismograph. It's obvious by seeing what we're seeing here. These seismic events are squashed. These seismic events are squashed. This kind of symmetry on the seismograph should not be seen. This is evidence that the seismologists have been tampering with the data. They turned off the seismograph, then they turn it on, and when they turn it back on, they turn the electronics back down. So the machine is not adequately portraying what is really going on. That's what we're seeing here on this seismogram from Barker Cemetery. Over on the far right hand side in the corner on the red line, it appears we probably had at least a 2.0 earthquake. But because everything is jumbled up here, literally, looks like blobs. It looks like blobs. The blobs are evidence of the scientific electronic turndown. These were probably at least 2.5, 3.0 earthquakes. That's what we've seen here lately. Anywhere from 2.5 to 3.0 earthquakes. And yet they turned it down. They do not want to report exactly what's going on. And this was this afternoon at Barker Cemetery. Now there is one earthquake here, well actually three earthquakes here I want to show you and talk about. From noon today at the top until 2 p.m., 1:30 p.m., 1:45 p.m. on the top of this. Look how the activity is squashed. But what happened this afternoon after 3 p.m.? 3:07 p.m. this afternoon, we had a 3.5 earthquake. We had a 3.5 earthquake here. at Barker Cemetery, Missouri. Then over here on the right-hand side, at 4:56 this afternoon, 3.4 earthquakes, both of those. 3.4 earthquakes, both of those. This is proving that the activity still is there. This one seismogram is proving that the activity is still there. They turn down the seismogram. Then they turn it up. And all of a sudden we get those earthquakes that I've been talking about. They turn the machines down. It's crazy. It's absolutely astounding what these people are doing. We know as they know that the pneumatic fault within the next 2 years is going to pop. And yet they are not wanting to show any evidence of any knowledge of it. They do not want to show the evidence of what's actually going on. Let me show you a seismogram I found from Memphis, Tennessee. Right at the border, right literally at the border of the Mississippi River, which is a pneumatic fault. This is the eastern side of the pneumatic fault. Look at this, guys. Look at this. Look at the tremors here. Look up at the top. We're seeing long-term tremor activity. Long-term tremor activity. The top line is midnight. 1.0 tremors for 2 minutes. 2 solid minutes of 1.0 tremors. Then they back down to just microquakes. Then this morning at approximately 12:55 this morning, all of a sudden they turn it back up. Then we have long-term tremors again, 1.1, 1.2 in nature. Long-term tremors. Look at the long-term tremors, minute after minute. And you can see it off and on, which means that the scientists, the seismologists, turn the darn thing down. Then later this morning, they decide to turn it back up. And then all of a sudden we get to have earthquake again. Look at the earthquake this morning after 4 a.m. this morning. 4:03 a.m. this morning we have a 2.0 earthquake. Then we have another earthquake after 4, what would it be? 4:20 a.m. this morning. This earthquake appears to be at least a 3.2 earthquake. A 3.2 earthquake. It didn't last very long, just fractions of seconds. But a small earthquake nonetheless. Then we have another earthquake after 8:01. A 2.3 earthquake there. And look at the other tremor activity here. And minor earthquakes happening all morning long. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis, Tennessee here in the past, it hasn't hardly shown any activity at all. So this is new activity, guys. This is new activity. Let me bring up the seismogram from this afternoon in Memphis. Let's see here. Well, son of a buck. And I'm sorry, that wasn't in Tennessee at all. That was in Arkansas. West Memphis, Arkansas. It's on the west side of the New Madrid Fault. West Memphis, Arkansas. That's wild. That's wild. Look at this afternoon here. Look at this afternoon. What happened after 12 noon today? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 12:07 today. 2.3 earthquake. At 12:22, we have a 2.7 earthquake. At 4:16 p.m. this afternoon, we have a 2.9 earthquake. 2.9 earthquake. The next biggest earthquake is after 4:40 p.m. this afternoon. Again, a 2.9 earthquake. 2.9 earthquake. 2:40 p.m. or 4:40 p.m. Then the next big earthquake we had, and it's not really a big earthquake, it's a minor earthquake. A 2.4 earthquake happened after 5:17 p.m. this evening when I pulled this seismogram. So there is activity there. This is on the Arkansas side of the Mississippi. Memphis, Arkansas. That's what blew my mind here. When I started pulling information, I'm going, what just happened here? What just happened here? The activity's there. The activity's there, it's everywhere. Let's look at the center of the New Madrid Fault at Matthews, Missouri. Matthews, Missouri is just north of New Madrid. Look at this. Let's make it smaller. Over here on the left-hand side here. Okay? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5:45 this morning. It started building up at 5:43 this morning. Actually 5:42 this morning. Starts with tremors for 2 minutes. Then we had 1.5, 1.6 tremors that instantly build up to at least 2.0 to 2.4 earthquakes. Then all of a sudden out of nowhere, 5:45 a.m. this morning, all of a sudden the 2.3, 2.4 earthquakes turned into 2.9, 3.0 earthquake sequences for 2 minutes. 2 minutes with 2.9, 3.0 earthquake sequences. That's shaking that can be felt. Shaking can be felt at Matthews, Missouri today. Look at that. It's all over. Then we had tremors and minor earthquakes after that. On that blue line on the bottom right, 2.0 earthquakes there. Matthews, Missouri. And I hadn't seen this before. Matthew, Missouri this afternoon. We had a tremor sequence that started at 2:12 this afternoon. Tremor sequences. 1.1, 1.2 tremors. For the next minute and a half, it was all of a sudden 1.3, 1.4 tremors, and all the way over until 2:15 this afternoon. At 2:15 they got bigger. At 22:16, it got to be 2.9, 3.0 earthquake. Two of those. The seismic event went up and down. The seismic event went up and down. But we had some good seismic events right there. Matthews, Missouri today. Everything else went down. Seismic energy decreased everywhere else. It's unreal. However, let's go over to Accomack, Virginia, on the East Coast. Well, before I take you there, let's go over to Nacogdoches, Texas, over on the east side of Texas. Look at this. The east side of Texas. The New Madrid Fault is having its share of business on the eastern side of Texas. Yes, the New Madrid Fault has pressurized eastern Texas. Here we're seeing tremors and minor earthquakes here. Okay? This is 1:58 p.m. this afternoon. 2.4 earthquake here. But we had tremors on either side of it. Then we had another earthquake after 3 o'clock. This one was no more than 1.5, 1.6 tremor. But it lasted over a minute. Nacogdoches, Texas. That's not all, folks. There's more. Let's go over to Ridgely, Texas. I can't wait to show you this. I mean Ridgely, Tennessee, not Texas. Ridgely, Tennessee. This seismograph is located in the penitentiary in Ridgely, Tennessee. Look at this. Yes, we've seen large earthquakes than this. Okay? In the mid-morning hours. In the mid-morning hours after 4 a.m. We have a lot of tremor activity here, right? All kinds of tremor activity here on the eastern side of the New Madrid. Then what happens late morning? What happens after 10 a.m. this morning? 10:07 a.m. this morning, we have a 3.0 earthquake. We have a 3.0 earthquake. Then, at 10:14 a.m., we have another 3.0 earthquake. And that sequence lasts 45 seconds. That earthquake sequence lasted 45 seconds. It doesn't stop there. Let's go over to approximately 10:20 a.m. this morning. 2.7 earthquake on the red line. On the blue line after that. Okay? This would be 2:35 a.m. 10:45 a.m. this morning. 10:40 a.m. this morning. Another 2.8, 2.9. Wow. That's wild. Ridgely, Tennessee this morning. All that seismic energy. Tremors and full-blown earthquakes. Full-blown earthquakes, I'm talking small earthquakes. There was nothing major. There was nothing moderate. Nothing large. Look at this. All of a sudden, we still have tremors going on after 3 p.m. today. After 3 p.m. today, they turned down the seismograph. They turned down the seismograph. How can I tell? Look at the energy there shown on the seismogram. It gets less, it gets less, it gets less. Science doesn't work this way. Science doesn't work this way. It does not all of a sudden go away like this. It doesn't work. They turn down the seismogram. They don't want anybody to really realize what is going on here. I believe for the most part, the seismograph people turned most of these machines way down, so they're not reporting. That's what I believe happened here on the New Madrid fault. Let's go over to the East Coast. I want to show you Virginia. Accomack, Virginia. Look at this. Tremor activity. Tremor activity. We've seen this before. This is not as strong as it has been, but it's constant tremor activity. Top to bottom, side to side. It doesn't stop. Minor tremor activity. 1.1 to 1.5 tremors here. It doesn't get much larger than that. Accomack, Virginia this morning. Literally all morning long. Nobody's going to feel this. Nobody's going to feel it. We've had larger earthquakes there before. Look what happened this afternoon. The same thing. But look at the size of the tremors at the bottom. Some of these tremors increased to 1.5, 1.6, and possibly even 1.7. The tremors here got larger. The tremors here got larger. That's Virginia. Remember the other day where we had two 2.7 earthquakes in Virginia. Linda Covington says, what do they say? A penny for your thoughts. Remember inflation? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But, folks, there's a lot of activity here. All over Virginia. Literally all over Virginia. No joke. Let's look at Corbin, Virginia. It's not quite as strong in Corbin, Virginia, but look at this. Look at the activity here after 10:30 this morning. Still tremor activity, but for about 5 minutes we had a large group of tremors. A large group of tremors. After that, before that, it was tremors here and there. Corbin, Virginia. Here at Corbin, Virginia, we've seen earthquakes here. In the past, we've seen earthquakes here on the East Coast. Not now. Why? Why not now? Let's go over here to North Carolina. Roper, North Carolina this morning. Look at this. We've seen earthquakes here before. All we are seeing here is tremors except at 10:45 where we have two 2.0 earthquakes, and that's all. All the rest of this is just tiny tremors. Very small tremors here in Roper, North Carolina. Yet we've had 3.0 earthquakes here before. Northeastern North Carolina. Northeastern North Carolina. Let's look at Roper this afternoon. The tremors persist, don't they? Then, on the black line here. On the black line here. This black line here is 3 p.m. 3:03 p.m. this afternoon, all of a sudden we get a 2.2, 2.3 earthquake. All the rest of these are just tremors. Now, I do think that they turned down the seismograph here as well. I do think that they turned down the seismograph here as well, because before now we've had 3.0 earthquakes off and on literally all day long. I think they've been messing with the seismographs. I really do. Okay? That's Roper, North Carolina. Let's look at Rowland, North Carolina. Rowland. Look at this. Here again, we've seen 3.0 earthquakes. Yes, in the past, we've seen these minor earthquakes here. These are minor earthquakes and tremors here in Rowland, North Carolina. Rowland, North Carolina is a town of about 300 people. Largest earthquake we had today is about 2:55. I'm not sorry, two. It's 10:55 a.m. Not 10:55. On this blue line, the blue line on the left is 10:30 this morning. Over here is about 10:40 this morning. This is a 2.6, 2.7 earthquake. 10:40 this morning. Okay? Rowland, North Carolina. Let me look one more here. This is Rowland, North Carolina this afternoon. This is more like we've seen here in Rowland, North Carolina before. Now we're seeing earthquakes just like we've seen before. 2.8, 2.9 earthquakes here. 2.8, 2.9 earthquakes all afternoon long. 1:05 this afternoon. 2.8, 2.9 earthquake. Then at 2:10 p.m. this afternoon, this appears to be a 3.0 earthquake here. Small 3.0 earthquake. After that, 2:46 p.m. this afternoon, 2.8, 2.9. After that, then at 3:05 this afternoon, we have another 2.8, 2.9. And you can see these others here, these other earthquakes here as well. This is normally what we see at Rowland, North Carolina. This is typical. Let's go down to South Carolina. Let's take a look at Sumter, South Carolina. Sumter's where we've had minor and small earthquakes before. Lugoff, Sumter, a lot of 2.4, 2.5, 2.9, 3.0, and 3.5 earthquakes here at Sumter. Today, 8:32 a.m. today, 2.8 earthquakes, back to back to back. 20 seconds of 2.8, 2.9 minor earthquakes. Then we come down here to 9 a.m. on the left-hand side, and we come over here on this black line here until we get to 9, 13, 12, 11, 9:10 a.m. Just after 9:10 a.m. over here is a 2.8, 2.9. Then after 10:15, about 10:07 a.m. this morning. I'm sorry, not 10:07, 10:22 a.m. this morning. Another 3.0. This is a full 3.0 here. Sumter, South Carolina. Then we had some tremors and minor earthquakes. Then we come over to the bottom right-hand side on the blue line. This is 11:44 a.m. 11:44 a.m. we have another 2.8, 2.9. The seismic energy on the East Coast is still there. The seismic energy on the East Coast is still there. It's all over. It's all over. It's not going away. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding. It's pushing North America in a southwesterly direction. That's why we're getting these earthquakes on the East Coast. That's why we're getting the earthquakes on the East Coast. Let's go further south to Savannah, Georgia. Look at this. Yes, for the most part, these are tremors and minor earthquakes. Tremors and minor earthquakes. At the beginning up here at the top, all we have is tremors. The tremor sequence continues until just after 11 a.m. this morning. Then it gets interesting. At approximately 11:43 a.m. this morning, 2.7 earthquake. 2.7 earthquake. Prior to that, at 11 a.m. this morning on the far left, on the black line, 2.7 earthquake there. Then, after 11:47 a.m. this morning, 2.6, 2.4, a minute and a half later. Then we come all the way over here to the right, still in the same line. 11:57 a.m. this morning. Another 2.6. Savannah, Georgia. This is pretty much typical. But look what happened this morning. All of a sudden, late morning, the seismic energies came out. Did they turn down the seismogram before that? Possibly. There is some evidence to suggest that they turned down the seismograph here. However, late morning after 6 a.m. this morning, that's when stuff really started panning out. Savannah, Georgia. Skidway Island, Savannah, Georgia. Guess what? It gets better. Look at Savannah, Georgia this afternoon. Look what's happening here. This afternoon at 12:03. 3.0 earthquake at 12:03 this afternoon. 3.0. A minute later, we have a 2.3. Then we come over here to the right. Okay? This is 12:13 this afternoon. 2.8, 2.9. Then look at the other earthquakes here as well. Let's continue down the seismogram on the far left. Okay? 3:15 today. We have another 3.0 earthquake, and that earthquake lasts about 8 seconds. Small 3.0 lasting about 8 seconds. Unreal. Unreal. Folks, this seismic energy is happening. Again, the New Madrid Fault and the Mid-Atlantic Fault are very active. You see the earthquakes here. It's no joke. They're all over. Up and down the entire East Coast. Do you have any questions? Now, I will bet you within the next week or so that the seismic events are going to get larger on the pneumatic fault. They're going to return to what they were. The seismic events are going to return to where they were. They just want to try to mess with people's minds. Oh, nothing's going on. Nothing's really happening, when they know darn well it is. Any questions? Don Patoga says, what should we do? Do we prepare for the earthquake? Do we prepare for an invasion of China? Do we prepare for an invasion from Russia? I think Russia's Putin wants to talk with President Trump. That's what he said several weeks ago. Yes, I do believe that President Trump is going to talk to Putin if the Democrat communists don't assassinate him before or during his inauguration. Okay? I don't feel good about his inauguration at all. Why? If some of you haven't already heard, the flying objects have been flying around. They hovered over the White House this past weekend. They hovered over the White House this past weekend and over Washington, D.C. Monday and Tuesday. They were thick as flies. My question is, the military knows what's going on because President Trump said so. The White House knows what's going on as well. Why were those objects not taken down? Why were those objects not taken down or addressed in any way, shape, or form? We did not have any Sikorsky helicopters up, no gunships. We had no F-14, F-18 fighters, nothing. Why not? Why not? There is some suggestion that says China is involved with these unidentified objects. Unreal. Renee Steffi says, was a possible assassination of Trump lately at D.C.? Yeah. He had a machete and knives. And there was one other one as well that the media is keeping quiet. Because the left-wing part of the Communist Party doesn't want it known. They don't want it known, and the FBI is covering it up as well. Unreal. Charlene's here in the chat at the bottom of the chat right now. She says, we need mega civilian supply stations throughout the USA for emergencies. I agree. But that's not going to happen. The government will not let that happen. It's all of us. Each and every one of us has to make sure that we have our supplies ready now. How long have I been talking about this? How long have I been talking about this, ladies and gentlemen? A long frickin' time. We've been discussing emergency preparedness for a very long time. At least every Friday, and several other times every week. I've been asking everybody to have an emergency preparedness plan. I've been talking about go bags. I've been talking about 72-hour kits. I've been talking about all of it. I still ask the question, how many people are paying attention to what I'm saying? How many people are actually listening? How many people are actually doing it? How many people are doing it? How many people have a go bag? How many people have a 72-hour kit? How many people have 2 or 3 months worth of food in their house? How many people have 6 months worth of food in their house? Or a year's supply? Or 2 years' supply? How about water? How many people have an emergency preparedness plan detailing all kinds of emergencies and situations that they could have, that they have to address? Renee Seppi says she does. Don Patoka does. I do. How many other people do? If you don't, you need to really start getting serious about it, because we don't have much more time. All heck is about to break loose. All heck is about to break loose, guys. The drones have been happening for months now. The government's not doing anything about it. Our military is not doing anything about it. Why? Why? You need to start getting real about it, guys. You need to start getting very real. And I'm talking now. I'm talking now. Yeah, that sounds pretty strong. It is. I mean it. I mean it. The people in charge of our countries, the people in charge of our world, want to eliminate Donald J. Trump. They want to eliminate everybody just like him. Me. You. Miss Bondi. And all the rest of the Trump administration. They want to get rid of them. Why do you think the left-wing actors and actresses are revolting? When a conservative woman, country western singer, says that she's going to sing at Trump's inauguration. And all of a sudden, all these left-wing country western singers, and even the other left-wing people in the entertainment industry said, "Oh, I don't like her anymore. She's come out on the right side. I don't like her anymore." They don't want anybody that is conservative. They don't want anybody but themselves. They've been trying to run the entertainment industry and everything else. Well, guess what? Their run is over. Their run is over. The majority of this people here in the United States have said that the left-wing control is over. They've given President Trump a mandate. They've given Congress a mandate. I stand by that. I stand by that. Harbor Girl says the government will do something about it in 5 days. They may do something about it before that. Renee Stevie says the quacks of the View are special on that. Yeah, they are. The View needs to be canceled. The View needs to be canceled. And those women need to go away. That one woman in charge of The View is worthless. Sorry, Whoopi, you are worthless. Worthless. Nobody wants to hear her opinions anymore. Or Joy Behar. Both women are useless. The show needs to be canceled. Anyway, I'm sorry for the rant, guys. I'm pretty pissed off about a lot of things. A lot of our countrymen are without homes. without warm clothes, without a place to sleep that's warm. Children have died. I don't like it. And I'm going to do something about it. Folks, as I've done before, I'm ending this program where we started. In the first chapter of Timothy, verse 8. But we know that the law is good if a man use it lawfully. We know that the law is good as long as a man that's using it uses it lawfully. What have these people been doing for months? Breaking the law. Breaking the Lord's commandments. Violating the covenants that they've been given. Knowing this, that the law is not made for righteous man, but for the lawless and disobedient, for the ungodly and for sinners, for unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind.
Location, Central Mid-Atlantic Ridge, class, light, magnitude 4.9, 27 minutes ago.
Mid-Atlantic Ridge in the Atlantic, 4.9, I bet it's a lot larger than that. Getting back here to verse 10. The law is made for whoremongers, for them that defile themselves with mankind, for man-stealers, for liars, for perjured persons, and if there be any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine. That pretty much sums it up. Law is not made for us that obey the law. The law is made for sinners. What do we need to do about it? One, we need to pray. We need to make ourselves right with God. Two, we need to make ourselves right with our family. Three, we need to make ourselves right with our countries. Those three things. And we don't have much time to do it. We don't have much time left. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we've come to the end of this program. Please subscribe, and when you hit the subscription button, click on that little bell icon and click the word all, A-L-L. That should get you subscribed and notified when we come on the air. But don't count on it. Come on the air between 6 and 7 p.m. Monday through Friday Eastern Time. On Saturdays, we usually take it off, unless something big happens. Then we will be back on the air as soon as the information becomes available, day or night. Sundays at 12 noon, between 12 and 12:30 noon Eastern Time. We have a Sunday school program I call Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. We talk about Jesus Christ. We talk about His gospel and His kingdom here on this earth. I ask all of you to please be part of our Sunday school class if at all possible. We want you there. You need to be there as well. I ask the Lord to bless you. I ask the Lord to bless you and keep you. I love the Lord. I love all of you. I ask the Lord to bless you and keep you. Keep you from harm. I ask you to keep yourselves in prayer. Each and every one of us needs that. Keep our families in prayer. Keep the leaders of our government in prayer as well. And ask for the Lord's protection. Ask for the Lord's protection. As I said, I love you very much. I care for you. I always do. Always have. May God be with you this day and always. May God be with you until we meet again. We'll see you tomorrow night for Preparedness Friday with Ron Tyler on Emergency Management Associates. Good night, everybody. I love you very much. See you soon. Good night.